Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Momentum Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Braca, and we have an amazing episode for you today. I sat down with Sophia Cohen, founder of Urban Pops and mother of 6, and we spoke about everything from starting a business out of her apartment kitchen to ultimately buying a factory, opening up 2 locations in Brooklyn and Deal, raising a family, and being a mother while starting a business, and much, much more. It was a great conversation. You guys are really going to enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and enjoy. Sophia, great to have you on.
All right, very fun.
Very excited. So you told me just now, actually, that you don't really do these types of things, these podcasts, no?
I usually decline.
Okay, so first of all, honored that you accepted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And yeah, no, it's gonna be great. So I wanna jump right into it.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could whatever's comfortable for you. You can leave it up. Okay, cool.
I could see. I understand.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Nice. Okay.
That's good.
So I want to jump right in. I want to get into your story. You know, the Urban Pop story, how it started. But before that, I want to hear a little bit about your childhood. So were you always entrepreneurial? Were you looking to start a business, or did the opportunity arise? You know, and then you took it.
I was always working.
Always working.
I was always working. My first real job was in Speedo, like the store, the retail store.
Nice.
I was 15. I worked in the city. I commuted from Deal every day. I felt very cool. I was the youngest, so the youngest in the family is usually the most personable. That's my opinion.
I sound the oldest.
Okay.
What I've heard, I don't know about that,
but
we'll let that slide.
Yeah, I don't know. You could take a poll if you want. But I went into the city shopping for bathing suits, and I got offered a job. And I was always working. I loved working. I worked in the city. I worked for my father. He had a high-end clothing store. I worked in showrooms. I did sales. In my early 20s, I did wholesale sales. I traveled around the country before I was married a lot. And I did good. I did millions of dollars in sales. It was very exciting. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
So I always knew that I wanted to work. And this came naturally. Really, it didn't start as something that I wanted to do as a job. I was just, by the time I came around to making ices, I was 3 kids in and 1 on the way.
Oh wow! So you were. It wasn't when you were young before you got married.
No, it wasn't before I got married. I was a young mother, but I was like your mother, and I was making everything from scratch.
Right.
And I was healthy, and I wanted to give my kids whatever they wanted without having to worry about what they were eating.
Love it.
And so I would make things from scratch. I would whip things up in my kitchen, and it was always fun. And then I remember that first year, those first 2 years, and Instagram blew me up. And I started in the community. So basically the way it started was, I'm looking for fun things for my kids to have.
Yeah.
Posting that, sharing that. Oh, I'm making this, I'm making that. Making ices, making watermelon ices, making strawberry ices. The kids are lining up at the door on the block, right? Nice. My mother always taught me, you want friends for your children? Just invite the neighborhood kids. Find the kids on the block. Find the built-in friends,
that. Yeah.
And, back before phones, that was the thing.
So,
I'm saying we had phones when we were a kid, but not cell phones.
I never went outside as a kid. I just... I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You poor generation. I feel so bad for you guys. So the kids were lining up on the block, and I was just making it for fun. I served it. I remember that Shavuot. I served ices in little lemon, in the lemon. I made lemon ices, and I scooped it into lemon. And my family was like, "What is this?
Wow.
You have more?" My sister walked in the kitchen, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, these are incredible. This is incredible. What is this?" And so... happens to be my sister was the one. We went out for dinner one night, me, my sister, my brother, my husband. And my sister's like, "This has to happen. You have to do this. You have to sell this." So it first started as sorbet, scooped.
Right.
And then I felt like, all right, you're buying a $20 quart of chocolate and you're a family, but what if not everyone likes chocolate? So I came up with the idea of, what if we could offer an assortment? And then the idea of pops just kind of popped in. And the idea of the bucket. I don't know if you remember, but we started out as a bucket. It was a bucket of pops.
Yes, yes.
Order your bucket of Urban Pops. Order your Urban Pops bucket.
Nice.
And it was like a thing.
And how many came in a bucket?
You could fit a dozen.
A dozen, nice.
So it started out, the name
it's a
was
Shabbat
Urban.
dessert. You know,
it
it's
was
like
a Shabbat dessert. And the name was originally Urban Frost, which my friend Shirley Canton came up with the word urban. So really, I have no credit. I came up with Frost, which is...
that's where it comes from.
And then it automatically just segued into Urban Pops.
Nice.
And the name is a great name like that.
Were
I'm
they
so
always
happy.
parv?
Always.
Always parv.
Always parv, because it was a Shabbat dessert.
Right.
You can't forget the beauty of our community, and you shouldn't run away from it, because I believe there's a lot of inherent blessing in it. Is that we're based around Shabbat.
Yeah.
No other community in the world is like that.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't mean to bring religion into it, but I think it's very, very important. So every business in the community really is based around Shabbat, right? Uri's based around Shabbat. Without Shabbat, where would he be? You're buying an apple, and I mean our families are big, so people aren't buying one; they're automatically buying a dozen.
I like that. Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Like when we built the business, we were struggling financially. We both were working. I was working. He was working. It was a nighttime gig.
Yeah.
Kids went to bed. My husband ate dinner. He sat down and I started this thing. Can you help me? I can't.
Right.
I need help. It's getting,
Sounds like a classic Shark Tank story.
Yeah, it is a classic
after
Shark
job,
Tank story. Yeah, we need
job.
the Syrian shark. Put it that way.
Okay, we'll rename the show. The Syrian Tank.
Yeah. The Syrian Tank. So it started like that. Once I realized that I wanted to offer an assortment of flavors.
Right.
That first purchase of my molds and my first cookbook, I particularly can remember speaking to my husband about it, because it was post Sukkot. He was taking the Sukkah down, and I was like, can I buy molds? And I asked him. I actually asked him, would you even ask now? But back then, buying something on Amazon, it wasn't as, it was 13 years ago.
Right.
It's a long time ago. So I bought molds, bought a cookbook, and started to play around with different flavors, because we were already making it in scoops. So and we had an ice box freezer, tiny, top of the fridge freezer.
Right.
Tiny. I was in a tiny apartment, 2 bedrooms in the back, 1 little fake bedroom in the front, and I had 1 freezer. And as this started to progress, someone was giving away a freezer, and I was like, I need a freezer. I'll take a freezer. Stuck it in my kitchen and started playing around with figuring out how to actually do this, because it's not so simple. The logistics of making any product is not so simple, right? You had Kraken on. I'm sure he had to figure out exactly temperature, exactly
the formula,
the flow, the
to
formula.
Optimize it. Yeah, exactly.
And when you're doing it in the house, before you move into a factory, which we are in now, of course, but when you're doing it in the house, there's a formula on how to work and how to do it and how many hours it takes and when to unmold and wrapping and wrappers and buckets and placement. All of it is, in the beginning, it's exciting. And I'm sure building a business now, it's the same way. You're still figuring out your specific formula of how to run your business, your days, your hours, right? We used to work till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself there, but we're very much into quality control. My husband, Gary, who works with me, I'm the face, but he's the everything. Everything moves. Everything is moving right now while I'm sitting here spending 2 hours in this interview because of him.
Right.
Everything.
Okay, I should swap you guys.
Yeah, I told him that. I go, no, I'm in a podcast. He's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Right,
Go ahead,
right.
do a good job, look good, and tell them the story.
Yeah,
do a good
for
job
sure.
telling the story.
So you mentioned earlier, in the beginning, you're always working, right? You said from when you were 15, you were selling Speedos, at the store. So I want to ask about this. I'm curious. Was that what was your motivation for that?
My father.
Your father?
Yeah, and my mother. But my father was an everything man. He was Moroccan, right? So married my mother. My mother's Syrian. And my father he taught me how to sell. My father was classic salesman. And I remember always over the years hearing the stories of Bloomingdale's back in the day. Right. He had his company. He had a French underwear company. And It's just, I was very inspired
Runs in the
by
family.
him.
Underwear, Speedos.
Yeah, oh my gosh. They were Speedo bathing suits. I mean, I guess, okay, there were a couple. Yeah.
All right, okay.
All right.
Yeah. Excuses you make now.
But he really inspired me, and when he had his clothing store, he brought me in, and he let me do my thing. And when he saw that I had a talent, now I look back, I see that, parents can do that. Parents can, when they see a talent in a kid, they can stir the pot a little bit,
Right.
push the kid in that direction, encourage it. Sometimes that happened naturally for me. My father saw that I was amazing at sales and that I loved it and that I was personality and that I could do it.
Right.
And he put me up on the stage for that. And I
I'm
don't think I
sure-
realized till right now.
Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, and I'm sure also, you're conscious of doing that for your kids.
Yeah. So I have one of my daughters. They all work for me. My girls work for me, and I
Nice.
love it. I find that the most important thing in raising any worker, I have all teen workers working for me. So I talk a lot whenever I speak, anywhere I speak about work ethic, because what I learned at Speedo and Versace and Elaine Mickley and these are Hittery and every job that I held is work ethic.
Yeah.
And sometimes I bombed, and sometimes I realized, and then my father would be like, bad move.
Right.
You shouldn't have done that. Or he would give me advice and be like, that would be a bad move. Don't do that.
Right.
And the work ethic, to me, for your generation, is key. Every generation. So I try to instill in my own kids and in all the kids that work for me, work ethic. You're coming, you're getting paid for a job. You're not getting paid for a one-handed job while the other hand is on the phone, or an AirPod, a half job. You're getting paid to do a job. Put your all into it. I don't care if it's Windexing the counters. I don't care if it's cleaning the case. Put everything into the job that you're doing, whatever job you're doing.
For sure.
So what I learned from all of the jobs that I had, if I could look back, and I remember it at the time, was that I always put extra. Like I was a sales assistant in some small company. That was my first wholesale job. I don't know. I would stay late. I would reorganize the books. I would give myself something, a project, and I would do it. Not necessarily it was asked for.
Was this because you wanted to stand out in the job, or was it because you had that inherent,
Both.
like motivation?
Both, but it really served me. Like I remember working at Hittery, and that was my first real wholesale company job. I had a job before that was whatever.
Right.
And then I got interviewed and I got this job offer. And also you always want to work for good people. So they were great people to work for. And I remember pushing the limit a little bit and my boss noticing, and then all of a sudden he's like, you could start calling. I'm going to let you start calling. Why don't you start calling accounts? And I started like cold calling accounts. I mean, I don't know if they do that nowadays, but maybe they do. It's nice person to person. Some people are like Hadge from email.
Right.
And I really pushed through. And my bosses were so impressed with me that all of a sudden I was being given accounts and I was traveling, and I felt like, wow, I could put my mind into this. Like it wasn't secondary. It wasn't like my social life was primary and my job was secondary. I decided to make my job primary. And I learned a lot in those days about work ethic and putting your all into the job and showing up. And bringing out, like my boss knew that I was great at finessing.
Right.
I wasn't great at paperwork, but I was great at finessing.
Salesman.
So fabulous. So what did I get? I got a carte blanche pass to take my clients out for dinners.
Nice.
He was like, go. You're good at go.
That's great.
Go. Oh, you spent $1,000 last night entertaining? Okay. But you know what?
That's a great
3 months later, I mean, listen, I worked for a great company that saw potential.
Yeah.
3 months later, I got a $3 million order.
Right.
And I broke the account. And he let me do that because he saw that I was good at finessing.
That's cool.
Was I great at paperwork? No.
Did it matter?
It did. It
Okay.
did. I had to put it. I had to do it. I
Right.
had to figure it out. You know, I had
But
to.
you did. But you figured
But
it
I
out.
did it. I figured it out. But I also excelled at where I was amazing at.
Right.
And that you know, I don't know. That's what got me where I am today. So I just think really those are the things I do stress. Like they asked me to come speak in a high school. I stress work ethic. I've had work. There's one girl that worked for me. She worked for me for a while, and she worked for me from when she was very young. So she called me up recently, and she's older. She's married now, and she goes, "You know what? Working for you fully, like put me on track. It was the best work experience
Cool.
because you expected a lot out of me at a young age." Right. So my daughter Isabella, she works for me. Beverly, Isabella, and Ruby, they work for me. And they're awesome. I have a 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 14-year-old. They're all amazing. So Isabella, she somehow managed to take over the store and deal in some ways, like the schedule, and I like to hone her abilities. I think she's great. I think they're all great.
Yep.
And like they all have chen, right? By the way, we're very blessed to be born in this community because there's also an inherent chen in the community.
For
and
sure,
I know,
for
I don't
sure.
know, you could add that in, you could not add that
We're
in.
keeping that in.
But everybody should capitalize on their chen. You're
Love it.
good with people, you should definitely use that. Use your smile, use your eye contact. Like I interview kids, the first thing I look for eye contact. Make eye contact. You know, that's an important skill.
Yep.
You don't realize it. Don't be shy. Don't be huzzy. Don't be, make eye contact, look, smile, show your teeth, right? We pay a lot of money for those teeth. Sure. Those braces really come in handy when they come off. Yeah. So to me, work ethic is key to starting a business.
So, you know, I'm sure your work ethic, you know, company-wise, got you to where you are today. I want to hear more about the journey.
Back then, Saturday nights would start with me and my husband opening, I don't know, 24, 48, 120 cans of coconut milk on a
Right.
Saturday night, making the solution on the stove in my tiny kitchen,
Right.
getting things ready, writing the menu, planning the week. Once we realized it was really something, and we went from no freezers to a house full of freezers. There were more freezers than people in the house. We had about
That's
8
crazy.
freezers.
Wow.
Used every possible area. I was pregnant that year, so I have distinct memories of like an apron over a pregnant stomach, working till 3 a.m.
Wow.
You know, also dealing with like the dynamics in the household between me and my husband, getting my kids to bed, my kids waking up listening to blending because their room is right there.
Right.
And the day worker walking in the morning to piles and piles of buckets, and I remember hearing her go, like, "Oh my gosh!" like raspberry solution all over the buckets.
That's
coconut.
crazy.
It was crazy, like because really the truth was once the clock hit 4 a.m. I became like. Gary couldn't even. I was aware. Like I turned into another person.
Right.
I was exhausted.
Right.
But I also learned to push through, because there was no way I wasn't gonna continue going.
For sure.
You know, I wasn't
Seeing
gonna
that,
catch. My
right.
kids laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, ride the wave." What are you saying? It's such a deal for like as I once said it. And they're
Right.
like, "Oh, what is that?" I go, "But really, that's what it is. You catch a good wave. You gotta ride that. You gotta go. You have to go. You can't slow down when it's hot. You can't slow down."
Yeah.
So
So, you guys have now 2 locations, Brooklyn and Deal.
right.
Um,
But that started,
And-
our first location was, we started out of our house. We started taking weekly orders every week, rotate, weekly orders. We tried doing delivery in the beginning, we couldn't figure it out.
Okay.
People would come and pick up. I was living on East 8th Street. So even your mother, any mother listening to this would remember coming down my block, and we had a system. We would label the freezers, we'd bring the orders out. I would be half dead, chat with the person for 2 minutes. This was me doing this. My husband was in work on Fridays.
Right.
And in the beginning, I remember calling him up and being like, in the early, I'm talking way beginning, I remember being like, honey, we made $600 today. And he was like, and we needed it. You know, you're a young couple. Sometimes you need help. You have to figure out. You also, in life, as you grow and you get married, it's not so easy. You know, especially now, it's much harder. It has to be than then. We were short some months, and I was like, wow, I made $600. He would be on his way home from work, I remember, and someone in the car made fun of him. They were like, oh, wow, yeah, maybe I'll start a pop business. He goes, yeah, my wife made $600 today. That's amazing. He goes, oh, yeah, maybe I'll start a pop business. Someone made fun of him.
Right.
Meanwhile, I guess we did start a pop business. Thank God it kept growing. It was amazing. So by the time the second summer rolled around, we got an offer to open up as a pop-up inside Brooklyn Diamond. They were on Main Street in Allenhurst. She called us up and she's like, I have a spot. And I was on the fence. How are we going to do it? How are we going to do it? I had major anxiety. So between my father and my husband, they're like, we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it. We'll figure it out. We pulled it together. And that first summer, that was nothing like it.
Really?
I was so busy in Brooklyn.
What was it? Was it just a freezer?
It was a case. So what did we do? My husband and I didn't even know how we were going to do it.
Right.
I was researching ideas. I was online. I was looking. There was Pinterest back then.
Right.
I was looking. I was researching. We found the spot. We came into the spot, looked at the spot, said, okay. We still didn't know how. We went to a restaurant resale in Asbury. We found the case. We bought our first case.
A case is what?
A case is like an ice cream case.
Like the freezer type.
Like a freezer, you know, you go in and you get scooped.
Yeah.
And then we had to figure out how to fit. What were we putting the pops in, right? Every single thing. Went to Home Depot, bought this. Went to Restaurant Depot, bought the containers, bought the dividers.
I never even heard of Restaurant Depot.
Restaurant Depot, it's whatever. It's a restaurant. They sell everything restaurant.
Yeah. That's cool.
And we had to figure out how to lay it out, how to present it. Every single thing was a thing. Nothing. You know, let me tell you something. You open up a store, you want to sell coffee. You have to figure everything out. You have to figure out your cups, your lids, your coffee, your recipes, your pricing, your the way your line is going to go. Everything is something. It doesn't just, you know, like this bottle of water, you know, how much they had to put into thinking about the cap and the this and the that.
You don't think about that. As a consumer of content, products, you know, services, whatever it is, you don't think about these things, you know?
No.
It's very interesting.
Look how
All
you
the
set
logistics,
everything up.
yeah.
Look, you put this here, you do that. Every single thing has a lot of steps behind it.
Right.
And your brain has to be ready to do it. You have to be clear and ready and thinking and on your game. And so that, at that time, we were, you know, I don't know how we were doing it. We had young kids, so whatever. There's never, right, you and I spoke before about balance.
Yeah.
You know how I told
We're
you
gonna
how
get into
I feel.
that.
We're
Yeah,
going to get
for
into
sure.
that. But so we did that, and we bought the case, and we did the freezer, and we had a freezer on the side, and we were like, okay, how are we going to restock pops? Where are we going to hold the pops? How are we going to
Did
store
you live
the
in
pops?
Deal yet at that point or no?
Nope. So Gary was back and forth. I was in Brooklyn overseeing production
Right.
and kids.
So production is what at that point? Are you still doing it on your own?
I'm doing it with a little bit of help. I think at that time I had hired day girls.
Got it.
Girls working for me, blending, doing, but I still didn't, you know, that's a whole nother
Still out of
story.
your house in Brooklyn?
Still out of my little tiny apartment in
Right.
Brooklyn. Tiny.
Right.
And so Gary's back and forth. And there were even days in the beginning where we would have to close. Hi, closed for restock, closed Monday, closed Tuesday,
Oh, wow.
reopen Wednesday. Reopen Tuesday night at 5:00. Open, the doors are open, the people are there. That's
That's cool. Wow.
What was amazing with Instagram.
What year is this?
This is 2014.
Got it.
Let's see, Albert was born 2013. That was my first summer delivery, so summer of 2014.
Got it.
And it was amazing. And then so we came back from Deal, and then the center called us. And they're like, why don't you open up something?
Yes.
Why don't you put a cart? When we bought our case, we bought a cart. We bought our first cart. I missed that cart. That was a steal. It was a great cart. And I really need another one of those
You
carts.
got rid of it?
It died. It was used like
Oh, get outta
nonstop.
here.
It was like
Yeah.
we worked that cart to the ground. It was
Yeah.
a fabulous cart. We have another cart, but that first cart was.
I remember the center. after Sunday program,
Yeah, you were young.
Can I get an urban pop? Like,
Best. We had a
Yeah.
cart first.
Yeah.
And then they turned around and they said, okay, why don't you put a freezer? So we put a case. So we said, okay, we have the case. It was in storage. At that time, we were still making pops out of molds, right? So there was a transition within those years of going from making pops out of a mold that you actually had to unmold, right? I hired a G. She came to my house, and at 7 a.m., before my kids even got up, she was already unmolding pops. And I had pictures. I would wake up extra just to get the pictures of her unmolding them, lining them
Instagram?
up. Huh? For Instagram.
Post it, yeah.
It was great content. I said those were great pictures.
Yeah.
Gorgeous pictures. And unmold. You even like you'd get a sore here from holding the stick. You know what I mean? But so those were great years. The store, then we opened up in the center, and then the following summer we took our own spot in Allenhurst.
Nice.
And we were in Allenhurst for quite a few years.
Yes, I remember.
Unfortunately, we kind of got pushed out of our spot.
Right.
But we made do because we also were starting with outside customers, the Ashkenaz community, delivering to 5 towns, delivering to Muncie. Deliveries are our main source for us. They're a main hub for us of our business. We deliver everywhere. And we figured out how to deliver on dry ice, and that also was a very big deal for us, that whole progression. And then once we moved into our factory, everything changed. Shipping across the country, we streamlined all of our deliveries. Holidays, holidays are amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Big season.
Holidays are, I'm going to go back to it again. We're very blessed. You
Yeah.
have to look,
It's
It's
easy to just brush it off, to not even think about it,
I remember at one point, I kept getting offers to open up in places where I would need to be open on Shabbat. And my husband was, no way, I'm not opening up on Shabbat, right? There's some people in the community, let's figure it out, we'll do it, shtar, this, I don't know, contract, there's kosher ways. Gary, God bless him, my husband, he's solid in that way. And I remember in the beginning kind of like pushing. I was like, but what do you mean? The community's full of retailers. What are you telling me? Then I remember he goes, call the rabbi. So I called my rabbi, and very, very amazing rabbi. And he said, it's much more complicated than you think. And it's not that, it's also in your head. You have to think about what's going on, right? Over the years, I realized my mind is 24 hours on work. I wake up in the morning. Now it's a little more streamlined, but wake up in the morning, think about posting, think about production, think about the kitchen, go to bed at night, the store's closing, it's midnight, I still am thinking about work. Shabbat hits, and my mind is shut. Business closed. There's a beauty to it.
Love it.
Our community, being Jewish, being observant, we're Orthodox, we know where it all comes from. You know how lucky we are? Like, do you know how lucky you are that you get to put your phone down for 25 hours?
Yeah,
it's a blessing.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. You're with your family. You don't feel like you have to connect. All right, Shabbat ends. The minute it's over, we're like, we start. But Hashem gives us like a real reprieve. And I don't mean to turn it into rabbi, but like,
No.
I really am constantly grateful and thankful that like, okay, my business is closed on Shabbat. I have complete rest. It's like minucha.
That's great.
My business is closed. I holidays, Shabbat, it's like pillars.
You don't have to think about what might be happening,
No, you know what? Whenever we cater to the world, and look, there's definitely a place for us in Costco, and there's a place for us in the Americani world, but our Jewish community, and I'm talking the entire thing, upstate, Muncie, 5 towns, Queens, Great Neck.
Yeah.
I'm talking at large, is a humongous, family-oriented, food-driven community that really supports amazing. So I'm so grateful for like these pillars that pop up through the year, right? Every week you get Shabbat. And then a bunch of times a year, Rosh Hashanah, pillar, Sukkot, mountain, Passover, mountain, Hanukkah became a mountain, Purim became a mountain. I remember sitting down with Gary after our first Passover and totaling, right? Pesach ended. Kids are asleep. We're sitting down in the kitchen, in our little tiny kitchen, and we're totaling. And like I said, we needed the money.
What are you feeling like?
I was like, and the number wasn't that huge. It really wasn't that huge at all. I do more on a Monday.
Right.
Way more on
Thank
a
God.
Monday, you know? Thank God. But I remembered sitting down and going, oh my gosh. And that was the moment we realized after that first Passover that it could be a real business. And I remember that first Passover 2013. And we were like, wow, I think we have something here. And Gary didn't fully join the business until the end of that first summer.
Got it. Okay, so pretty relatively early.
It was a year. But already we were like struggling with it. I was like, I need you. But you can't
Right.
leave your business. It was like a back and forth. It was a struggle.
And then you
And then
ultimately decided that
all
it would
of a
be
sudden
worth
he
it.
came home and he's like, I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. And I went, it was a Sunday morning. I go, aren't you going to work? He goes, I'm finished.
Right.
And I went, okay, let's do this. And that was it. Monday morning, he started to get books in order and ordering in order and streamlining. And,
Nice.
I was like, trying to do it on my own. And
Right.
at that point, that was when the partnership started. There's something to be said about working with your husband.
Right. For sure. No, you
Yeah.
can't
There's a lot
shy
to
away
be
from
said.
that.
There's a lot to be said about working with your spouse.
For sure. Okay, so listen, I want to hear about this. For the people watching, the ideal audience for the podcast is community members around my age, a little younger, a little older.
Right.
The youth. That's it, right? And I don't know how to phrase the question so well, but you're a woman, you have 3 kids, 4 kids?
6.
6 kids? Oh, wow. So
I had 3 kids through the process.
you have 6 kids.
I had 6 kids. I started with 3.
And then
then I
one
had
on the way
another-
and then 2 more.
No,
Meaning-
yes, one on the way when I started,
Right.
and then another 2. Yeah,
Right, okay. You married, yeah. Okay.
married almost hitting 20 years right
Wow.
now.
Okay. Awesome. And just give me your thoughts on the whole, on the whole situation.
When I started, it was very difficult to have the balance. We worked till 3:00 every night. 3:00 every night. 3:30. Like I said, if the clock was close to 4,
And you woke up what time to put your kids on the
I
bus?
had to wake up at 7:15.
Wow.
I woke up, I crawled out of bed, and they didn't get 100% mom by any means. And then as the year went on and the years went on, they would come home from school. It would be 4:00, 4:30. There would be blenders and and coolers and freezers and pop molds and workers. They didn't walk into, hi, honey, the table is set. Here's dinner.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Never. And I would let them watch TV. I'd let them play outside. I'd feed them something quick. But it was the idea of multitasking. It's fake. Like, it's not real, right? We think we're multitasking. We are such multitaskers now with technology. It's a
And the
killer.
apps open all at once.
Hello, you have
yeah.
4 things. I find myself watching a movie on my phone and on another tab doing work.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's
I'm
crazy.
multitasking, but I'm not all in.
Right.
When I want to focus now, I have to shut everything out and I just have to okay, focus. And it's much harder now to focus. I definitely think
It is,
I
for sure.
can't be the only person that's saying that. The generation is now plagued with learning how to focus when you're forced to multitask.
Right.
And not only that, but what technology also did was we used to have a work day that ended.
Not anymore.
You don't have a work day that ended. You're going to go and you're going to edit this whole thing at 1:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You're going to be working all night. You're going to wake up in the morning. There's no work day. Customers are going to call me at any time of day. I'm answering emails all the time. I'm posting all the time. So as it is on your own, is there balance? There's not really balance. Balance used to be I go to work and I go home and I see my parents. When you're single, I see my friends. I see my husband. I see my children. Now it's a big mix. As a woman, I find it to be very difficult. I find that the woman's place in the house is totally jumbled. I crave, I love when I'm just focused on my kids and that's it, it's their time. The struggle is real. The struggle between having to work. There were years there was no balance. Like there were years there was no balance. And I'm not gonna lie about it. Like I get asked this question on women panels. There is a place where a woman can be at home. So you want to find the balance and you want to run a business, you should do it. But you really have to be self-disciplined, which is not an easy thing to find now. Like, you know what would be an amazing business? What would be an amazing business would be someone to help people become self-disciplined. That would be an amazing business right now because there is a niche. Because a woman needs to come home and she needs to focus.
Right.
She needs to give them attention. The kids are, so you see the flip side of it in the kids, right? I'm raising 6 children and there's a lot to raising children. I used to think a stay-at-home, because I never was a stay-at-home mother.
Right.
I never really had that opportunity. Nowadays, I'd like to say, okay, I could be stay-at-home, I work from home. But do you know how busy a mother is? With schools, therapists, tutors, house, shopping, dinner. A home runs around the mother. So I actually want to say, if you're a mother and you're a stay-at-home mother, my very best friend has the same exact amount of kids as me.
Mm-hmm.
Same ages. She doesn't work. She's always busy with her kids. She's not lunching. She's not out playing cards. She's busy raising her kids. I think there's such a beauty to that. I don't mean to be like old-fashioned, but we all look back and go, wow, there's such a beauty to that. So I think that there is a balance, but I think that your generation really should like bring back old values.
There's a beauty to that, but you run a business. How does that, like,
There's no balance.
Is there,
It's rough. I in the summer, believe it or not, it's easier for me because everything is a little bit more relaxed, right? I don't have to deal with school and homework and this and that. The kids, it's easier. But in the wintertime, Passover, my kids don't see me for the month before Passover. For the month before Passover, they're like, thank God I have certain therapists that come or I have tutors. I have to deal with mother's helpers. So you have to balance like that. You have to hire out. So you're finding the balance. You're really basically giving the responsibility to somebody else.
right.
So I feel bad because I feel like there's a different answer that people want to hear, but I don't really think it's real. After 13 years, I can tell you, they're all right. So if you want to look at the end product, let's look at the end product. You know what I mean? All right, how are my children doing?
Sure.
Right? They're managing, they're great. But I do feel like there's a certain element that I wish I could give them that was lost. And I
Right.
just think that if a woman we're talking women, like you said
Right.
to me before, oh, I don't know women, you know? You're going to want to come home. The husband comes home, and there's an element to marriage and shalom bayit and running a home and calm in the house. But my business is also very different from other businesses.
24/7.
And would you really think Urban Pops would be 24/7? It's Pops. Like,
Right.
what is it? But there's a demand, and there's workers, and there's staff, and there's a store, and there's... So now what's the next question? So where has the balance come now that we're a little bit more settled? So now we've hired people to do a lot of that. But
On the familial side or on the work side? Or
on the
both?
work side.
Got
So
it.
that's where the balance comes in. But between starting your business and getting to the point where you can hire management, kitchen manager, store manager, assistant, this and that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So between the years of when you're starting
That's
and
when the
you,
balance suffers.
and when you have the money to pay for that, the balance suffers there. Like now, my dinner's, I'm going to go home. Like even my kids laugh at me. Summers, forget it. I'm not always making dinner in the summer because it's calmer. Like I don't know, summer, believe it or not, even though we're the busiest, it's the calmest.
Interesting.
But during the year holiday,
Right.
I'm My business is amazing because I'm also, any customer will call me and they'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry for calling you. And I'm like, this is my business. This is what I do. I make sure everything is running smoothly, down to the manager, down to the dishwasher. I mean, not really down to the dishwasher, but
Right.
we do have dishwashers, but I don't know them.
So, like looking back at the 13 years that you've been running Urban Pops, do you wish you set up? Do you think it would have been possible even to set up a system from the beginning where a greater balance could have been achieved? Do you think
I
it was
can
inevitable?
imagine probably. My husband and I didn't have parents put us in business.
Right.
Right? I didn't have that. I didn't have the influx of capital that just dove into my business. And I didn't go to business school. Gary didn't go to business school either. So there's also the art of learning business on the job. I think that I would love if I could go back. I wish I went to business school because I do have a good mind for it.
Right.
I think I have a good mind for it. And maybe I'm not mathematically inclined, but I definitely have a mind for the dynamics
For management,
of business.
for business.
I would love to have learned a little bit more. I would suggest taking business courses, reading, listening to podcasts, taking advice. Oh, right. Listen, but by the way, I forgot we're even on a podcast. That's how easygoing you are.
Beautiful. Love it.
That's what But I definitely think getting guidance from people that are already doing it and soaking that up when you have the time. I think that do it before you start a business. If you think that you'd be interested in starting a business, but you don't know what kind of business you want to start,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Start taking classes. Start listening to podcasts. Go out of your comfort zone. Do something someone isn't doing. Read a book. Read a book. Who reads books? Only day that people read books now is Shabbat. Honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sad. It's sad. But there's plenty of great podcasts out there. And I think that's what I wish younger me did to set us
Just
up.
give
Younger
you that
me
little
and
head
Gary.
start, right? You would have gotten that head start.
So maybe that's the solution. Like I'm sitting here hashing it out with you. Like, oh, what would have been the solution? How could I have done it better? Definitely, I think that those things could have helped because, learning about how to balance a business, how to run a business without the business running you, right?
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts, a lot of business advisors talk about that. Learn how to run
do you
a
own
business.
a business or
Does the business own you?
Or do you own a job? That's
Right.
also another way
Right.
of putting it. Yeah.
Right. You don't even own a business. The business owns you.
Yeah.
You just have but you have a 24/7 job. You better figure out how to do that
Right.
where it doesn't suck you dry and make you unhealthy.
Right.
Could do that. Because the world's 24/7.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Or
it's a
for
lot.
us,
Yeah.
24/6, right? Thank you.
Thank God.
Thank God for Shabbat. So
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
I don't know. I guess
like,
I didn't
and-
even think I didn't know what we were going to talk about today.
And so I'm sure that you're encouraging your kids with this information. Everything that you're telling me.
Definitely. I encourage them. Like I feel like I tell them, I'm like, guys, I'm at this point old generation, you're new generation. Like you can use this business. You can work. You can build this business. You can do things I can't do.
Right.
You can be creative. I want them to take business courses. I want them to be inside the business. I want them to clean the toilets. I don't care. I want them to clean the bathroom. I want them to sweep and mop. I want them to learn how to run the business from bottom
Work
up.
ethic.
Work ethic. So
Yeah,
it's
okay.
a lot. It's
Wow.
a lot. I'm sorry. I don't know if you want to go in that
no,
direction.
because I mean it's a.
I get deep. I get deep.
Take away the podcast for a second. It's something for me to think about also.
know?
Like it's just like things that you have to have in your mind
You definitely need
as
to
a community
think.
member,
As a community
as
member,
a guy,
how you're
as a
gonna set
girl.
an example.
Yeah.
How you want to build a family.
Actually, I had one question, random question. Getting out of the deep stuff.
I'm sorry.
No. Really,
I don't even know if you're going to use it.
It's going in. Really don't apologize because this is what it's for. We started the podcast. My father had the idea. You should start a podcast interviewing community members who have seen success, in whatever they did. And the whole point is, because I like this, I'm enjoying this conversation, and as a viewer, I would enjoy this conversation too.
Right.
And my friends would, and people my age would too. So
Right.
that's the whole point.
Right, you just got to keep their attention because everyone's so ADHD.
Yeah.
these
So maybe we'll make a
days.
clip. We'll clip this, and we'll make
For sure you
a
can have
30
to
a
clip
30
this.
second item. The real question: what's your favorite flavor?
Oh, right now my favorite flavor is dragon fruit lemonade.
Haven't had that one.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Dragon fruit lemonade.
So refreshing.
I don't go for the fruit one so
Oh.
much. I go for the ice cream ones.
I know. What's your favorite flavor?
I think, okay.
Over the years, you could take me through the
no,
years.
you're going to call me basic. Strawberry
S'mores.
shortcake.
Oh, okay. It's not so basic.
I feel like it's a basic one, but it's so good. It's
so good.
Chocolate caramel pretzel. That's what.
Right, you brought that one up.
That one was good. I used to be a
Heavy?
chocolate caramel pretzel guy.
Right.
S'mores is always like depending on if I'm in the mood for it, but that's always
Right.
That's
right,
always
right,
great.
Right. Ferrero Rocher is a 10.
I want to ask, one. We have a sort of signature question. The name of the podcast is called Momentum. Like I said, it's for the youth. We wanna allow young adults, teens to hear little bits of inspiration that'll get their journey to success going, build up some momentum from a young age, right? Kind of like what you did, how you were working from age 15, right? What was in the business your momentum moment, right? The moment where you see everything starting to come together, you realize this is working, and that you have to continue.
If you find that there are people that are excited by something that you're doing, don't be embarrassed to keep going. Don't feel like Teal, Hadge.
Right.
Don't second guess yourself. Don't talk yourself down. Just do it. Just be exhausted. It's okay to be a dish rag once in a while. All right, you missed out on the trend. You have no idea what's going on.
Right.
But you're fully immersed in what you're doing. So if you do something and you feel like people are like, wow, that's so cool, but then you realize that like you're going to miss parties and you're going to miss this, Hadge, you get that like second guess back talk, just shut it up, because that's where the magic happens. And I missed a lot. I missed a million weddings. I missed everything. I missed, listen, balance or no balance. I pushed through. My kids missed out on me a little bit. I mean, I have a fantastic relationship with them, and I develop it. I always use Shabbat as my time. In the early years, I used Shabbat to sleep, and then because we would, God bless my parents, Gary and I would be asleep at the Shabbat table. I'd be on the couch, he'd be at the head of the table, the man sleep, where they fall asleep. My parents would put the kids to bed and push us into our beds. And then I started to find the Shabbat balance, where I realized, okay, I'm going to sleep, and now I'm going to spend time with my kids. So I really use that time. But don't tell yourself Hadge, Teal. Don't use that talk on yourself. Right. There's a lot of that now. People think, oh, it's already out there. Oh, like, look at you. You're doing a podcast. Other people do podcasts. But look, I heard about you from my daughters. Like when I told them who you were.
Right.
And I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. And they're cool. Thank God they're cool. I need their cool. I use their cool.
Right.
But that's the momentum. Don't second guess yourself. If you're excited about an idea, explore it. Do it. That's my momentum. Don't let yourself. I don't know if that's good. Is that good? Is that what you want to hear?
I'm not asking you for what I want to hear, because I'm asking you for what you want to say. But
I don't know if that's a good enough answer.
It's a great answer. I love it, actually. It's like sort of also just get started. Like you might not be fully ready, but you have to get started, and you learn on the job. You mentioned
learn
before.
on the job. Definitely learn on the job. We learned on the job. We're still learning on the job. And it's all right to learn on the job.
So am I.
It's all right.
Right here.
It's all right to learn on the job.
Yeah, for sure.
And ask for help. Definitely ask for help.
For sure.
Don't be embarrassed. You should always reach out and ask, and not be afraid to ask.
For sure.
That's why I said yes.
Love it. Because it's great. So we'll follow Urban Pops on
Thank God.
Instagram.
Yeah, follow Urban Pops on Instagram. If you haven't had one in a while, get one. Whatever.
Okay.
Thank God.
Now you know.
Hashem.
All right. Okay.
All right. This was so much fun.
This is great.
I hope
very insightful. Great conversation.
I hope
really.
I hope I didn't over. I don't know.
Not possible.
I didn't. What this was fully everything I said was off the cuff.
And that's the whole point of the show. You know?
Yeah. That's what I do. I'm off the cuff.
All right. Love it.
It was
Great.
nice to meet you,
Okay.
and I hope everyone.
Great to
enjoyed.
have you. All
right.
And
Good luck.
Thank you for coming.
I think you're
Thank
gonna
you.
do great.
Thank you.
I have no doubt.